If you've ever seen a red bowl being used in a philanthropic drive or donated R2 for the orphans in the KFC Ad Hope campaign, which some people think is a little bit of outsourced CSI, regardless, then you've probably come into contact with JAM South Africa. Now, to find out more about this incredible philanthropic initiative, I'm joined now by David Brown, MD of JAM SA. Evening, David, and welcome to the Classic Business Philanthropy feature.
Good evening, Michael, and good evening to all your listeners.
Now, as I said in my intro, David, I'm sure many people have actually interacted with your campaign without actually realizing it. Who or what is JAM all about?
Yeah, Michael, JAM is now 31 years old. We're a South African-based and South African-founded NGO. We started our initial work in Mozambique back in 1984. But then grew rapidly to work in Angola, South Sudan, Rwanda, and of course in South Africa as well.
And I mean, looking at the numbers, they're absolutely staggering. I think in total, these are the numbers I've got for 2012, excluding Rwanda, your nutritional feeding beneficiaries top 1 million. I think the exact number here is 1,084,865, which is a truly phenomenal reach. How do you manage to achieve such a blanket of coverage?
Michael, it really started with two people, and it just built up over the years. We have an enormous logistics operation. I mean, if I translate that into some other statistics, feeding 1 million people every day means that we're moving about 100 tons of food every day. Some of that food that we're moving in really difficult areas such as South Sudan and Angola, we move in 3-ton four-wheel drive trucks. So you can imagine that's a number of trucks that are operating every day to get that food to the children, the schools, and the communities where we are assisting.
That is an absolutely monumental task. Tell me, a lot of the charitable organizations I speak to on the program have bemoaned the economic conditions, particularly in the last few years, not to downplay the global financial crisis, but in particular in the last few years, it's become quite tough out there for philanthropic organizations to raise funds. How are you finding the fundraising environment at the moment?
The fundraising environment is tough, and it does seem to be getting tougher. We have a really good as an organization, we really focus on running the organization extremely lean, very efficiently, and very effectively. So, for example, in South Africa, for the last 7 years, we've been feeding children at a cost of 360 Rand per year, or 30 Rand per month. Now, that just takes a constant application of every possible management technique that we can. We do data gathering using technology. We go as an organization continually looking at ways of doing things better and more economically so that the rand of the donor can go further. And I think that really has an appeal to donors, that they can see that the funds that they are investing in corporate social responsibility and in philanthropy are being used efficiently and effectively and responsibly.
To leverage those funds to the best possible effect is certainly the best possible outcome. And when one looks at the way you do that, I see that I think you're the first NGO that I've certainly seen in Africa that creates a sustainable kind of closed-loop cycle where you grow the food on your farms in Mozambique. And that is then used to be fed, excuse the pun, into your feeding schemes.
Yeah, we are really proud of the work that we're doing on a concept, and it's a worldwide concept, and it's being really promoted by the World Food Program and many others. But it's a homegrown school feeding concept, and that is that the food for school feeding should be grown as close as possible to the school that's being fed. So in Mozambique, on a farm that we have, we are growing food to feed children in schools, but we are developing small farmers and medium-sized farmers all around our farm and in that area to improve their agricultural capability and to assist them in taking that food to market, as well as having off-take agreements with them for it to be used in manufacturing food in our factories for our programs.
It's an absolutely phenomenal example of what can be achieved with application and with due thought to the sustainable nature of the programs that you're getting involved in. David, just tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing in South Sudan. I mean, it's the world's newest country, and things can't be easy on the ground. How are you finding working in South Sudan? What are some of the challenges?
South Sudan is certainly one of the toughest environments, and it's tough, Michael, in two ways. The first way is just the physical situation. It's a land that has really tough conditions. There's a lack of infrastructure. There's extremely heavy rainfall during the rainy seasons. So just to give an example, we were working in one area on the eastern side of South Sudan where there's a 6-week window, but the roads are actually open into that area. That's 6 weeks in the year that one can get a truck in. And so it makes it impossible. It's very tough conditions in that way. The second component is the political situation in South Sudan. Being the newest nation, there are very many ethnic groups. They were united by fighting against the North. But now in freedom, they are trying to sort out a political solution between various factions. And so politically, it's been an upheaval for some time, and that makes it really difficult. We've had bases that we've lost vehicles and items like that, and there is danger, physical danger to people who are on the ground. So yes, very, very tough conditions, but a country with massive needs, and a country that I love, a country that has enormous potential for the future because of their mineral wealth and wonderful people. And when it comes together, it's going to be fantastic. It's really superb.
Well, it's really wonderful to hear your great optimism about the potential in South Sudan, and I think it also just serves to highlight the great need for infrastructure across the continent, because once that starts becoming established, then the work of organizations such as JAM will be made that much easier, and you can perhaps reach that more many people. Now, just before I let you go, David, I have, and perhaps rather cynically, sometimes viewed that Add Hope campaign by KFC as a bit of outsourced CSI, because ostensibly the business is asking me to fund the corporate part of the social investment. Tell me how that partnership came into being, and I think after hearing the great numbers of people that are reached through the campaign, I might actually soften my stance a little bit, and the cynic in me might be reined in a little bit.
Well, I certainly hope I can help with some of that cynicism. The Ad Hope program has been superb, and we really value the partnership that we have with them and have developed with them over the last 4 years. Just in terms of the funding model, and that's something that really, I think it would be worth you having a discussion with Ad Hope, a wonderful lady that heads that up, Lauren Turnbull. But the model is that the funds are not coming only from the public and the R2 Ad Hope.
Yes.
With a transaction. Yum Foods, the holding company, as well as each franchisee, are also contributing. And the contribution is to ensure that every R2 goes into the cost of food that is going to go to children. And so, to me, it's not just that they're getting the customer of KFC to fund it. They are putting in an enormous amount of funding as well.
Well, that certainly does change the dynamic quite a bit, and I will take up your offer, and I think I'll invite Ms. Turnbull onto the program to talk a little bit more about it. Having a look at these numbers, every time I see them, I'm absolutely blown away that you do this with such a should we say, an efficient and streamlined team. What's on the cards for JAM in 2015, Dave? Any new markets that you might be entering into?
I think it's really going to be a period, to me, what I'm projecting is growth in our existing operations. The homegrown school feeding model in Mozambique will continue to develop and to reach even more schools as we develop that. Angola has been really interesting for us in that we have now, our byline is helping Africa help itself. We need to ensure that Africa in the future is going to be completely independent of foreign aid, and each country should be as well. And so it's been a real breakthrough for us that the Angolan government is now funding school feeding. And that's absolutely superb to see a nation taking that responsibility. South Sudan, we're hoping for greater stability and that we'll be able to move from a disaster relief type of feeding into a program that is working on development and sustainable development in the areas of agriculture and development of infrastructure. And then in South Africa, we continue to grow in our early childhood development program. We are certainly hoping that we can get growth of 40 to 50%. You know, there's statistics that were published by Stats SA
yes.
show an increase in unemployment. They show an increase in poverty. And that really takes its toll on the children under 6 because there are too many of them. Almost just over 25, the statistic is 26% of under 9-year-old children in South Africa are stunted. Mm. That means they don't have the proper brain development and physical development to learn and to grow. And we have to address that. And so that really is our mission in South Africa. We've got to get to those children. We've got to reverse the stunting. We've got to deal with the impact of that. And we have to equip those children to go into primary schools in grade 1, prepared for education, because otherwise we're not going to turn around the ship. Yep. Education's just so key.
Absolutely. We just perpetuate that intergenerational cycle of poverty unless we tackle it at the very root. And I know some very prominent business people have come out and kind of echoed that. Johan Rupert was one that springs to mind recently. Dave, all power to your elbow and continue the great work that you're doing. You've certainly managed to sway me around, certainly on the ad hope side of things as well. Not that I was ever cynical on any other side of the business, but thanks again for your time.
No, thank you, Michael. And, you know, every South African, we're feeding a child in South Africa for 30 Rand a month. There are so many people in South Africa and can afford to do that. We just encourage people, join along with us and make a difference in the lives of children for the future of our country.
That was David Brown, MD of JAM South Africa, with this week's Philanthropy feature right here on Classic Business.